And so when you guys start to actually look at this and the idea is proposed, do people think it's crazy or are they open to it? Like, I know the firefighter community tends to kind of think a little bit differently, given there's firefighter podcast, blue collar podcast. There's, I think you guys have a podcast and just they seem to be in and around these types of technologies or these types of movements. But what was the reaction when the idea first came up?
So having 10 years, I was the president of our union. So I know the system pretty well. I've navigated some challenging times and done everything that we can imagine in the books, right? So of course, when it comes to approaching a union, like I have a good background. What I saw in working through talking to other unions and figuring out how do you onboard unions and get them to learn about Bitcoin was there's a lot of barriers. Many you talk about on your show that we know. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, right? The things that have been publicized heavily is the drop from all-time highs to lows that gets publicized. Luna, FTX publicized, all this like fear type things. So I started looking like, how do you get folks on board the correct way, right? And Bitcoin was originally intended to be held in self-custody, right? It wasn't made. That was part of the beauty of the innovation is you can hold it yourself in your own wallet. You don't need a third-party custodian. That's very tough to do for a union to kind of go, oh, here's this thing I don't understand. Let's put a bunch of money in that. So the key that I kind of started seeing was, hey, I don't think any union has ever self-custodied Bitcoin. And what an amazing way to start the journey of learning by learning about the fundamentals of Bitcoin as a asset and a network. And so I just approached the board and there had been conversation, discussion on it. And that commitment was small enough to be like, let's just explore this thing in a very exploratory fashion. And then it kind of went to the membership and the membership supported it. And that's how it happened.
So when you talk about self-custody, you bought it on a platform, you put it in self-custody. How did you guys get comfortable with that, right? I run asset management firms, I run businesses that have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And whenever there is more than just me as the owner or me as the kind of participant, there's always the question of like, hey, do these other people involved want me walking around with a hardware wallet in my pocket with basically our Bitcoin, right? Same thing here is that, yes, you plus 100 plus other people have some sort of interest in this Bitcoin. How do you get comfortable with self-custody and how do you kind of deal with the dynamics there?
Yeah, so a few ways. One, the treasurer happened to be someone that has been in the space themselves, so they had comfort with it. So that was a great thing. The treasurer of any union board is kind of like the manager and overseer of the funds, that financial, that union's finances. The second thing, again, was making it small enough of a dollar amount to where the cost of mistakes, failures, learning is extremely low. And when I say a small dollar amount, like we're talking like something that I believe most people it'd be laughable, right? You're like, oh, is this like a joke? But the thing is there are a lot of reasons why I think this route is beneficial for groups, unions, organizations. And we've seen some already just now. We did this prior to, the SEC pursuing Binance and Coinbase. And can you imagine if a union put $1,000 a person into, something they don't quite grasp? And you're seeing these headlines of the SEC, the United States is now pursuing these exchanges and saying what you're doing is not right. You're breaking the law. Wait, what? So it has to be an amount to overcome a lot of these hurdles. Price drops, right? Like, hey, when you zoom out, Bitcoin is heading in this direction. When you zoom in, it's a roller coaster. How do you overcome those drops? It has to be small enough to learn. You cannot put in more than your level of education on it because then it will not become a thing that lasts. It will become something that ends fairly quick. So that's how we were at a comfort level, is that the amount is so inconsequential that folks can be like, sure, let's do self-custody. Let's learn it that way. And you can start that learning.
Have you guys publicized what the number is or you're not allowed to say?
We've sent it out. It will come out, but let's say not this, let's say for sake of conversation, something like, $1 per member.
Okay.
right? Something that is like so minimal that, again, you're not. Why would you do that? Not as an asset to make money. It's not going to change your balance sheet and do that. But if you can learn about it for the long run and set something up that's more promising in the future and explore, make mistakes, then the value of that becomes massive, right? Because show me someone that puts a few bucks into Bitcoin early, learns it, doesn't get afraid, and they go in more and more, versus someone who puts 10 million in but doesn't understand it and they kind of freak out, panic, sell it, move funds, then zoom out 20 years and show me who the winner is of that. I would argue that it's the person that came in light.
Yeah, it's like a crawl before you walk, before you run type strategy. What is the conversation like, kind of in the Firehouse, right? So obviously this is happening at the union level. I'm assuming some people agree with it, some people don't, some people don't care. Like, what has the conversation been like, though?
Yeah, that's another benefit with the inconsequential amount is you get an overwhelming support, which it was. Also, remember, for any organization, you're never going to get 100% support. So if you do this massive step and there's 20% of the people are not into it, they're going to dig in deeper if it really like impacts them and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to now give this money for this thing we're doing. So by doing that small step, another benefit is those people that were opposed to it are still in a learning environment. They're still learning. They still have an open mind. And so just again, recently, conversation is good. It's like, hey, the way we hold it, it's not on one of these exchanges, right? I saw on the news, the SEC, that, yeah, exactly. Oh, well, wow. Okay. I get that. Understanding it like, hey, I noticed there's all this negative media, but the price of Bitcoin went down a little bit and then up. Yeah. Why is that? What are some of the other aspects of it? And so I think conversation is really good, which I think at the start of any person or organization's journey, you want that good conversation.